misorganized my slides, but it's okay. We'll just go through it like it's normal, okay? It's all good, it's all good. So, hi everyone, I'm Kyle Sullivan, and this is my portfolio critique. So, a little bit about me. I'm a creative technology and psychology double major. I came to Barrie quite a bit ago from a family friend, and found Hackberry through a close friend of mine, Melissa. We came over here to mess around and see what was in the lab, and Zane showed us the basic little, was it the hot wire, just like setting up all the little LEDs on the 7-pin LED, yeah, the keychain. And from there, I always tried to come back every now and then until I really started to fall out of psychology and started to fall in love with creative technologies, especially with the 235 class I took with Chris. Since then, I've been a part of this course until now, and now it's a major of mine. Completely unexpected. I planned on going through psychology the entire time, but the other things I want to talk about before moving on is my love of video games and graphic design. And they kind of combine. See, video games are designed to be user interface. They're designed to be whatever you want to be, but like a way to engross you into the story. And one of my favorite parts is whenever a user interface model is designed to represent the game that's being shown. Take, for instance, there's a very popular game known as Nier Automata. They created a blankscape user interface that actually integrates and reacts with the video game you're playing in real time. Whenever events happen, the screen starts to blur if your character gets injured. You see it happening in real time along with the interface provided. It's an experience that is integrated. And because of that, I've always loved that idea of simplicity, but also a connected tie to what you're making. So for me, whenever I wanted to make video games, I always wanted to make it in that way, which leads me to my theme. Designing and producing physical games with an emphasis on graphic design and improvements in simplicity. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, whatever I'm trying to make, I want to make it so that the people who play it can understand where it comes from in a simple but easy to understand way. So, the first game I want to present is Bad Comments. This is the final project I've been doing throughout capstone, sorry. And it was originally conceptualized in Hackathon in 2020. I was alone in my room because I was quarantined and I had nothing to do. So I was watching YouTube and realized I'd like to try to see if I can make this into like a little card game. So I tried to experiment with it, kind of did some fast prototyping on Illustrator, and eventually came up with a simple design that was easy to understand, but also represented that YouTube style before. Ever since then, I've been developing it like they have for Cards Against Humanities, making it a phrase style card game that has a prompt card and response cards that everyone else plays on top of the prompt card. But this is also integrating YouTube's ideas where you can actually watch a video through a QR code and experience YouTube while also experiencing the card game. So this is the original designs and the new designs. So the original ones, you can see they're a little good, but I had this idea of allowing them to bridge off into space, and you don't get the full idea of the description whenever they're cut off. So I nixed that, and I also was planning on doing images. Now, the problem with imagery in a game you're selling is that you have to buy the rights for it, and I didn't want to spend a lot of right payments just to get a couple images for each different card. So instead, I decided to remove the card layout and more base it off of the original 2006 to 2012 designs of YouTube and follow it up with just a simple prompt underneath and a QR code link that follows through with the title that is set right here. And then, of course, I simplified the design of the comment cards in order to just be a white space with the text and on the back, the same type of imagery. So this is how play kind of goes. You first get a prompt card, and everyone else has to play on this prompt card. You can watch the video through the QR code if you want to, or you could choose not to, it's up to you. And everybody gets a turn to go. But unlike the Cards Against Humanity's fashion, you actually get to play subsequently from the other players. So it'll start from the left to the right. Player 1 gets to play first, player 2, then player 3. The reason why I did this is because in YouTube comment sections, there are reply chains, people replying to each other often. So the first person who gets to interact with that video gets to put the first comment, but everyone afterwards can bounce off of that. So I wanted to introduce that into the card game style that I had made. So I made that an option. Now, unlike some of the other projects you might have seen in the past, I haven't actually had the time to develop it very, very hard. So a lot of the processing was developing and user testing, because as you know, if it's a word game, people need to find it funny in order for it to work. So there have been a lot of nights where I've just been sitting here with a group of people, just looking at the cards, understanding the cards, and playing the cards. And I've had a couple good nights where people were really liking the games and how the play goes. So I'm really happy with how that went. So as you'll notice, there's a really big number at the top over there. I applied for the Angel Pitch in the beginning of spring, and I was able to win $1,000 as a grant for this game. So this funding will go to a future plan that I have for the game. But ever since then, all my focus as of this point has been on advertising, showcasing the game, showing off what it can do. And as of this point, it is for sale. And I have every card deck ready and able to be sold to anyone and everyone who wishes to buy it. I'm super excited that that's possible. In fact, I even have the Instagram if you guys want to follow it. And this is one of the many posts that I made talking about how I'll be tabling at Cranner in order to sell these games. So that is one of many projects that I've made in the past. Another one is the ASL Practice application. This is an American Sign Language letter practice application that allows you to practice your lettering in real time. There is a slow mode and a fast mode that I've integrated into the game. And I did have to change 2 letters. J and Z, because the programming we used, the gesture tracking program, does not really work well with motion tracking. It does well with simple hand gestures, but anything that's movement starts to get muddled and kind of hard to track in that kind of way. So instead, I turned them into 2 different letters. If you'll notice down here, I changed J into this symbol and Z into this symbol. From this, I continued to develop the application just to have the base information you need with the command prompts at the bottom and a little indicator to show whether or not your hand signal is registered. You also have predictive text that shows up in the text box above, and in the below, you can activate, if you want, a time attack mode where you try to spell a word as fast as possible. It then displays your best word possible, the word per minute, and a bunch of other statistics that you might want to know whenever you finish up. So yeah, here is some videos showing that. And hopefully it doesn't show the audio because this was during a very loud night. So as you can see on the left, I am currently trying to spell a word as fast as possible. And as soon as I finish spelling the word, it'll clear. And it'll show you best time, word length, and word per minute. It might go through again. I'll leave that on the side, but I'll also show you it in its normal mode. So you'll see here, I'm just spelling out the letters, and you're able to just register them by doing simple hand signs and hand gestures like I've explained. And this idea came from the fact that I wanted to practice my own hand sign. So I made a simple program that is easy to understand, especially for somebody who has the understanding of hand gestures, but wants to apply it and practice it multiple times. So the next project I want to talk about, if it'll continue, is the Kingdom Hearts fan-made layout. This is an idea that I came up with a while back that I wanted to follow through with and was promoted by Zane over here for my final hackathon project. I wanted to design a completely new layout for a fan-made version of a now canceled mobile game for Kingdom Hearts. If you know it, it's just some point and click tap adventure type game. But the UI was really, really heavy, like very dense. If you look at this, you've got all these menu items right here. You have lettering, lettering, lettering. Everything is just cluttered with space. And it takes up so much of it that it just becomes hard to read. So I really wanted to just simplify it down to its base materials and just have the UI show up on the side in order to just interact with in real time, but not interrupt the flow of the game, and also really dull down those just screaming effects because it's just too much. So I simplified it down to its base parts, and this is what I came up with. So this was done over 4 hours for Final Hackathon, and I really appreciated the work. And if you'll notice, this background is also custom designed based off of the kind of counterproductive design of this work in order to represent a certain idea in the game's series. So one of the final games I'd like to talk about is Triangular Square. It was a concept game where I just wanted to design a game that was easy to play, but also a game you could play with your friends, whether it be a co-op, puzzle mode, or even like against each other. I can't think of the word, sorry. So, but the whole game, the point of it was to just make art. And I wanted to make the coloring as easily readable as possible to anybody who joined the game. And they are painted, yes. And I did that on purpose because I wanted it to be easily changed as far as the coloring. Because say somebody can't see the colors on the screen, then I'd like it to be able to be seen by anybody. And the board is just, the pieces are 3D printed and the board is laser cut. So it's all simple, easy to make, and easy to understand. The final thing I'd like to show you guys is the Pigeonhole Theorem. Yes, it is misspelled. It is called the Pigeonhole Theorem for those who know the mathematics theorem. But I called it the Pigeonhole Theorem because it is a Christmas-based game, interactive game that explains the Pigeonhole Theorem in process. Everybody gets a turn to put in 1 to 5 birds into these small little houses, and then they hang it on a tree. Each one has a number to represent what day it was hung up. The Pigeonhole Theorem is the idea that you try to find out how many birds it would take to fill one of the holes if you have more birds than the holes you have available. So say you have 26 birds and 13 holes, you know each hole has to have at least 2 birds. Otherwise, you might lose some birds, and you can't do that in this kind of theorem. It's a little complicated, but once you get it, it's really easy to understand. So the goal is to predict how many birds would need to be in at least one hole at max by the end of Christmas. So, and you could just do a little prize with it. So thank you all for listening. And I'd just quickly like to talk about what's next for me. I am going to be attending once more at Berry for a fall semester, finishing up my coursework with my 2 majors. And I actually have a cool announcement to make for anybody who's interested in the card game I was showing off. If you don't want to buy a version now, I will actually be producing a summer version with over 300 cards with the budget I received recently in order to produce a much more high quality card game for those who are really interested in the series. Afterwards, I'd really like to look into game and card design, especially like board games and card games. Maybe online, but I'm more leaning towards like physical games and toy designing. And so I've noticed on Indeed, I found a few services that I was looking at and thought was interesting, like Ignite, it's weird phrasing, Goliath, and Jack's Pacific. And those are just a few titles I found. I'm not really planning on applying because I think they're more looking for now positions, and I'm still going to be in college for another semester, but these are the kinds of jobs that I'm willing to apply to for the future. So yeah.